Hi everyone. Can you hear me? Just send me a thumbs up if you guys can hear me, if I'm audible. Guys, am I audible? Can you hear me? Perfect, thank you. Thank you guys, thanks for joining. So today is International Yoga Day and we have a very special guest. We are waiting for our guest to join in. Okay.
Hi, Urmi, can you hear me?
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Yes, Urmi. Yes, you are audible now, Urmi. Can you hear me? I think there's
Network issue at her end. Let's just wait for a minute for Urmi to join back, guys.
Hi.
Hi, Urmi. Sorry, I guess there was a network issue.
No,
So, guys,
actually, I got a call, so that's the reason the network just got off. But hi, happy Yoga Day to you as well.
happy Yoga Day. So we have quite a few number of people joining in. Thanks for joining, Urvi. Thank you everyone for joining us for today's session. Uh, Today is International Yoga Day, as we all know, and yoga has been practiced in India for ages. And as our special guest to talk about her experience and share her learnings with us. So, for the benefit of people who do not know Urmi, let me quickly introduce Urmi. So, Urmi Kothari is an energy coach and fitness expert. Her purpose is to empower people by strengthening their mind and through training of the body. She has quite a stellar background. She's a celebrity trainer and also a functional training master with over 21 years of experience. In itself speaks a lot. She's been featured in quite a few leading publications like the Vogue, Elle, Times of India, to just name a few. So I think without wasting further time, I'll quickly jump over to some of the questions that I at least have in mind. And we'll also take questions from the audience as we go along. Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
So Urmi, these are challenging times, right? With COVID in the backdrop, second wave we are going through, especially for corporate folks like us, right? There's a huge issue of stress and burnout. There's an issue of burnout due to the work from home scenario that we are all going through, right? And things are the timelines are getting blurred. There is no weekend. There's work almost
Correct.
24/7, right? So how does one deal with such a scenario, such a burnout, such stress?
Okay, so a couple of things. First, let's understand burnout a little bit, right? It's
Sure.
not just a mental burnout. It's a combination of physical and mental burnout. And I'm a strong believer, and even science says that, and even yoga philosophy also says that, is that your mental and physical well-being are so interconnected. Also, one of the things is in philosophical terms, we say that your body is like a temple for your mind. So if you don't take care of your body, then how can your mind flourish, right? And I am a true believer of that, simply from my own life experiences, as well as not only as a seeker, but also, of course, as a professional coach. So burnout, in terms of the physical burnout, when does it happen? Is when your body is not nourished. That is one. Second is that your body is not well rested. And the third thing is that the body's energy levels are very, very low. And energy levels, I mean that it doesn't mean that you're going to eat a lot of food and you can get energy from just by eating more food. It means it's the quality of food that you eat. That's what matters a lot, right? So am I
Sure.
clear? Am I clear in
Yes,
terms
yes,
of
yes.
audible network? Everything is fine?
Yes, I can hear you. Guys,
Yeah. I hope everyone can hear me as well. So that is the physical side, right? And what is happening is that right now the mental stressors are actually putting more stress on the body. So when, like you aptly said, in the corporate setting, the uh, timelines are very blurred between work and life. And unfortunately, because you're at work all day, people think that you can sit on your laptop and you will not realize that you have spent the entire day working, and you've just taken small breaks in between, but they are not quality breaks. And when I say quality mental breaks, is that what happens is that we are not taking mental breaks. And what I mean by mental break is that by really tuning out from your work, what happens is most people, even if they take a break from work, either they are thinking about work or they are on the screens. So you are not doing any activity which is rejuvenating you mentally. And that causes a lot of, I would say that causes an inability to tune off. And when you can't tune off, you cannot think of more creative and fun ways to give back to your mind or your body. So you don't end up pursuing the hobbies that you like as much as you did, simply because when you don't take enough breaks in between, or quality breaks in between, you are neither there nor here. So you don't come back refreshed to your work, and neither are you maximizing your downtime, right? So that is one thing. And second is, you don't end up sleeping enough. And when we don't sleep, I mean, scientifically also we know that sleep is so essential for human performance, human recovery, human your moods, that your metabolism at so many levels, that you actually really are compromising that one literally super activity that your body can actually completely recharge. And this I can tell you for a fact, that if you can sleep for a good 8 hours consistently for a month, you see how just your mind and your body changes just by doing that simple activity. Because sleep is a very underrated I can say health pill. And most people, because of the lockdown, now look at that again, like your screen time is so high that your body doesn't fall to sleep at the right time. You're not able to tune out mentally, so you are constantly going to sleep also with so many thoughts in your head. So these are the causes because of which burnouts are happening, right? And again, your sleep time ideally should include between 11 to 4 a.m, that time window. And majority of the people in the lockdown didn't even sleep up until 2 a.m, right? So the quality of your sleep is also getting compromised. So what can one do is, first of all, when you start your day, how you start your day is, I feel, very, very important. You can really set the tone for the day just by dedicating 30 minutes of non-negotiable time for yourself. And those 30 minutes can include, let's say, a physical activity, or it can include any kind of meditation or any kind of gentle wellness activity. It could even be that you're spending time with your children, or it could be time that you're reading a book, right? It doesn't have to be a physical activity only, but it basically means that you do not look at a screen, and you do not pick up work, and you do not look at news, and you do not look at social media, right? So try to stimulate other senses other than your eyesight. So it can be listening to good music, like which is gentle music, which can, it gives you a lot of I would say a positive start to the day, right? You could listen to a podcast, you could read a book, but start with those 30 minutes of me time, right? And it could be
Sure.
whichever time you wake up at, it doesn't matter. And what it does for you is it that you're giving back to yourself, not just your body, but your mind as well. And the second thing is that most people are mindlessly on their phones. You do not need to check every WhatsApp message, every email, every notification the moment it comes through. So normally what I do is that I set certain times during the day when I'm going to check my phone, and that really works for me to answer all those messages in one go, right? To answer all those emails in one go, to check all my Instagram notifications in one go. So what am I doing is during those 10 minutes I'm really just focusing on that, but then the rest of the time I'm not bothered about checking my phone. So what I'm doing
Sure.
is I'm able to really then, because I'm also writing my book, so I'm really able to then focus on the task at hand. If I'm coaching, then I'm really coaching. So what is happening is that I also was reading this book called Deep Work by Newcal. Sorry, I forgot the Newport. His last name is Newport. But basically, he talks about that the more we end up checking our phones, the more we end up multitasking, the more we end up switching between tasks more often, you are actually compromising your body's ability and your brain's ability to focus, right? And be
Absolutely.
present.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you just
Makes sense.
practice this, right, it can totally change your life. Like practice non-negotiable 30 minutes. Then once you have that routine, then you can think of a workout. Then you can think of something creative, right? So yeah, I mean,
So yeah,
that is
I think
really
that
essential.
yes, definitely makes sense. In fact, something that I have started following regularly is the 30-minute routine that you spoke about, you know. And listening to music in the while in those 30 minutes also makes you complete your to-do kind of list through the day and makes you far more productive. Another interesting
Yeah.
point that you made is the fact that we need to prioritize time. So there's a particular time for clearing all your mails or all the responses that you need to provide and be social in that sense, right? And then carry on with your work of the day. So I completely agree with you when it comes to saying that mind and body are interrelated. And so basically you spoke about how important nutrition is, how important your sleep is. Sleep is often neglected. So, from a layman perspective, if we were to put a framework together, how should it be? So, what are the exact things that we need to practice to be able to form this
So
kind of a
did
yeah
yeah, yeah. So are you there?
yeah yeah
You're breaking a lot. You're yeah, okay. So regarding a framework, right? So we spoke about the time framework. Now the second is like the food or the nutrition framework is the first thing that people need to do, because you are really what you eat, right? In even in yoga, you and Ayurveda as well, they recommend you eat certain foods as per your body's dosha, right? So your body's definitely your food has to match your activity levels. Most people are sedentary in their jobs. Then also they're consuming foods that are very, very high in refined carbohydrates or carbohydrates in general. And if you are leading a sedentary life, your body doesn't need as many grains or whole grains as well. You need to eat more fresh vegetables, more lean proteins, which is vegetable proteins as well, more sprouts, more legumes, more beans, and also more good fat, which is coming from mixed seeds, which is coming from nuts, which is coming from good oil. What I'm trying to say is that away from processed food. But what is really stopping them from doing that is their lifestyle, is there the way that they're driving themselves to overwork themselves every single day. Because there is an imbalance there. The body wants to compensate, or the mind wants to compensate by really treating themselves with high fat foods. And again, this is related to sleep. When people don't sleep, one thing, we cannot be yoga as an isolation. In fact, one of the meanings of yoga is union, is harmony. So how do we create harmony, not just in our health and fitness, but in all other areas of our life, slowly by slowly, is by really staying present and really by you to compromise on your health and fitness. And I'm having a lot of questions as well. I would love, and I don't think it's my network. Hello?
Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah.
I think there's some.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you heard the framework part of it with the food and
yes,
the sleep and the physical activity as well. And when we say physical activity, we don't mean activity to lose weight. We just mean that your spine, especially, right? Your spine is your backbone. And most people have such stiff spine. So even on an energetical level, even if you just do simple stretching to release the spine and the shoulders and the hips, that in itself will bring in so much of blood circulation that you will feel fresh. So a lot of people think that a workout is supposed to be one that is like you crawl out of a workout, right? It's not supposed to be that. Your
exactly.
workout should be energizing you rather than it really draining you of your energy. And that's why yoga can play a very big role, because yoga can help you with asanas, and asana is not just working on your muscles, it's working on your joints, it's working on your organs, it's working on your chakras. So yoga has the such a powerful ability to work on your physical body, on your something called as a subtle body, and your energy body as well. So that is the reason, I mean, they say that yoga is such a powerful philosophy of life as well, right? Because it's not just your physical body, right? And unfortunately, the physical part of yoga has been given so much importance that people have forgotten the other limbs of yoga, especially pratyahara, which is one of the, it means control of your senses, right? And controlling your senses, it means it's not just, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
I
So
can hear you.
Pratyahara basically means that you actually go inwards and you really um, do not react to situations or your via your senses. You are actually responding to situations. And it also means you're taking time to process your environment, your stressors around you. Let's say it could be a deadline at work, it could be something that a colleague said, it could be something that happened in your family, or it could be that you are about to lose your job. It could be any of these stressors. But the point is to not get, if we react to it, we are reacting from a place of panic, from a place of not thinking clearly, of not actually looking at a situation clearly, right? So yoga can really help you calm down and actually respond to a situation. Like if people can try this actually, is that if you are someone who gets irritable very fast, if you're someone who gets angry very fast, if you're someone who, is coming back with a rebuttal very fast, then
Sure,
before anything happens, or when that situation happens, before you respond, just count from 10 to 1.
sure.
Just
I think
take,
what,
yeah.
sure.
And I would like to
That's
answer some questions if you don't
yes, yes.
mind.
Sure, we
If
have
there
a
is someone, yeah, please go ahead.
So we while we were talking about food, I think there's a question on how to improve your metabolic rate with
Yeah,
yoga. Yeah. So I think that's
yeah,
a
yeah. Yeah, I think that's a
interesting and
very good
valid one.
question. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, see, what you can do in with yoga, you can do asanas that are really targeting your Manipura chakra, which is the fire, so that improves your digestive power as well. Along with that, when you do a lot of twists work, twist-based asanas, that really detoxifies the body. So that stimulates your intestines, and it really improves your body's ability to excrete toxic waste, right? And that could just be having a very healthy gut. And majority, like your gut health, is very much related to your moods. It's been proven that there is so much information going from your gut to your brain that it has a huge and a very big effect on the way your mood is, the way you can function, and your ability to actually respond and be more mindful, right? So your gut health is so important as well. And like I said, when you do a lot of twists, that also helps you in detoxifying the body. Another way to improve your metabolic rate is to actually consume more vegetables, more lean, like I said, more beans and legumes if you are vegetarian, more lean proteins if you're non-vegetarian, and having more nuts and having more foods that are unprocessed. Because when you do that, already your body has to work a little harder to digest those foods. And when you are consuming refined flour, like something like a bread or chips or any kind of junk food, your body is able to digest it really fast. And that time your body doesn't need as much energy because you're sitting most of the day, right? So what does your body do? It keeps storing that in the body as fat. And along with that, it doesn't need to work much to digest those foods. So its metabolic rate keeps dropping. And another
Sure.
way, apart from yoga, you can do yoga asanas that build more strength. So, like chaturanga, arm balances, more lower body asanas like warrior pose, like Parshva Konasana, Trikonasana. Basically, asanas that are working also your whole body in strength, that will build muscle, and muscle has more. Muscle needs more energy to maintain itself. So automatically, even at rest, you end up burning a lot more calories, right?
Sure.
But like I said, that if you are practicing yoga in its truest essence, then you will see that not only your muscles, you have like you're building strength, but your appetite also gets regulated. And the best way of improving your metabolism also is not to keep on snacking in constantly, right? Like especially during lockdown, people are bored, they have more easy access to fridge, so they
Right.
end up eating so much constantly. So you're not giving your digestive system any rest. You're not furnace you, yes, you're supposed to eat, you can eat small meals during the day, but that's not the only way to increase your metabolism. You can eat good meals for just 4 meals in the day and still have a very high metabolism. It depends on what you are eating. That's what matters the most.
So I think there's a direct question for you. What do you eat, Urmi? One of our viewers has that question.
Okay, so I'd like, do you want me to say what exactly I eat from morning till night? But I mean, honestly, I eat 2 big meals a day. I don't eat more than 2 big meals a day, and I eat 2 small snacks. That's because I really, I mean, it's my personal choice that I like to work a little bit on a lighter stomach. So my mornings are usually quite light. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my mornings are quite light. I usually start my day with a tonic that I just learned to make as per my dosha. My dosha is Pitta. So I usually have a mint and a cardamom boiled water. Then I have my bulletproof, which is basically black coffee with ghee, with a little bit of collagen in that. And then I usually eat like fruit. And during this time, I'm usually working, I'm coaching. So I like to eat light at that time.
And then usually I eat like a early-ish lunch between 12 and 1, which is like substantial. Either it's with eggs, with vegetables and roti, or it's with any kind of protein. So like it could be dal sabzi roti, it could be like a really big omelette with potatoes. So that's how I start. And then in the evening, I usually have a small snack, which is like yogurt with mixed seeds and some fruit again. And then dinner is usually similar to lunch. But honestly, I really believe in eating wholesome, and I do not believe in isolating your food. So sometimes I have a protein shake, but that's very, yeah, that's like not all the time.
Sure. So, one question now we've kind of learned about the holistic aspect of yoga, which includes nutrition, sleep, everything to keep your body healthy so that your mind is also healthy. So, I have a curiosity. How do we get our children into practicing yoga? Because this whole lockdown has also severely impacted their lifestyle and their day-to-day life as well, right? So, is there an age constraint? How do we kind of get them practicing some of these lifestyle benefiting practices?
So, first of all, I would like to say that yoga is for everyone at whichever age you are at. So, definitely, it's very, very safe and very, very beneficial even for children. Second thing is, it will also help children to become less restless and become less, nowadays kids are very, very restless also and that also is partly because they are constantly distracted by screens, right? So yoga can really help them build focus and build immunity at from a very young age. And another thing is that yoga can help them in terms of strength as well. So I would say just starting them off with just basic Surya Namaskar and not uh, um, putting this really like a disciplined kind of approach on them, because kids are kids. They want fun, they want creativity along with that, right? So
Sure.
you can start them off with partner yoga if you have like two kids. You can also do like I said, start off with just 10 to 15 minutes of a routine where they are doing some sun salutations and doing some breathing exercises, and that's enough for them to then start exploring their interest on their own.
Sure. So I think it's high time we get our children and kids to practice these some
Yeah,
of these
and in
things.
fact, kids, I mean, definitely, kids are definitely more adventurous. They are less fearful, so they will actually enjoy yoga, because once you move ahead in yoga, there is so much more to just asanas in terms of twisting and turning your body in different shapes. It's also about if you really face your fears. Like for me, doing backbends is yoga in yoga is quite was challenging earlier, so for me, I really enjoyed that. So yoga has, and that's why get a good teacher, I would say, for your kids as well, who wants to do yoga, because they can really bring out the fun in yoga as well for the kids.
So that's a very interesting point. I think a lot of us also started doing yoga or practice yoga by Googling about various asanas. So what is the recommendation there? How do you? That's a very pertinent point, right? Because you don't want to get things wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. So, definitely, I mean, I'm not just saying that because I'm a coach, but even today, if I want to learn something which I really want to learn properly and thoroughly and deeply, I have almost never Googled a technique. I have always gone to a teacher and I've always learned it myself. And whether it is online or whether it is in person, I really feel like a teacher can bring out so much beauty from the craft, a good teacher. So and like I'm very lucky to have had coaches from my basketball days, to have had some really good teachers in my 12th standard for my organic chemistry as well, where I fell in love with the subject, right? And I was just failing that subject like a year before. So I really feel like a good teacher has the ability to really make that subject flourish for you. And that's why I feel it's very important to get a good coach or good guidance for sure.
Absolutely. I think that is for all our viewers to note. Now, Urmi, I'll go back to the subject of nutrition again because you mentioned about eating as per your dosha, right? So, how does one go about figuring that out and take that path?
So I'm not an Ayurveda expert. So I've also studied myself, and I've worked with an Ayurveda coach where we sort of there is a quiz that you can take, which you can go from minimum 10 to 50 questions, which help you determine your yogas, dosha. And there are three doshas: Vat, Pitta, and Kapha, right? And every one is not just one. You could be a combination of the two. So
Okay.
but usually you will always have a dominant dosha, and that dominant dosha also has, it's not just your physical characteristics, it also has a lot to do with your attitude, with your mindset, with your temperament, with your like your even physical characteristics like your hair, the nature of your skin. It has so many, like the size of your bones, like there are so many different aspects to that. Now that again, like Ayurveda is a framework, right? And that doesn't mean that you don't eat other foods that are for other doshas. It just means that if your body is in balance, then you can eat everything. But right now, because of the pandemic, and like you said, the burnout and erratic lifestyle eating, and not following I would say a natural way of eating, has probably made a lot of people's doshas unbalanced. So in order to bring that into balance, you should try and do, like, basically when I worked with the Ayurveda coach, we did this course called Prana, where I was doing the meditations and the coach was doing the Ayurveda aspects, right? So there we didn't tell them don't stop eating this, stop eating that, but we gave them tonics, we gave them beverages, we gave them other Ayurveda techniques that can help them in their daily life. So for example, massaging your feet at the end of the day with a little bit of ghee, right? And you just massage your feet with your hands and then you go to sleep. That can really improve the quality of your sleep. Something as simple as that, right? You wake up and you make a tonic as per your dosha. So mine is pitta, where it's the body is already a little fiery. So usually you would have something to cool your system down, right?
Sure.
Same way you have a tonic for Kapha. So basically what I'm trying to say is that you don't have to become a yogi to follow Ayurveda or yoga, right? If you are just basically being aware about what your tendencies are that push you to become imbalanced, then you can start to do something about it. But if your whole life you're just going mindlessly and just leading your life day after day, the same routine, and then suddenly one fine day you're wondering what happened to my health, what happened to my body, then of course you're living a very unaware existence, right? So we should
Right.
be
Yeah.
looking at that awareness, and that I feel is awareness is not pertinent to just yoga. It's not just related to spirituality. It's not a philosophy. It's a simple act of being and present where you are, right? If
Right.
like
So it's
I'm
the
doing a
art of
life,
being mindful.
yes, and like I'm talking with you, I'm being like I'm there, I'm listening to what you're saying. How many times in the corporate settings have people gone into meetings, gone into discussions, only thinking about what they are going to say next and not thinking about what their colleagues are saying, right?
Sure.
And I'm sure it would have happened to you also sometimes, where you said something to someone and they've said something completely different than what you were saying, right? So what I'm trying to say is, are you really listening, right? So your ability to listen, your ability to be patient with yourself, your ability to not judge yourself, your ability to not be constantly measuring your work with respect only with results, right? All these are I would say offshoots of you leading a life close to yoga, right? Because what does yoga teach you is to be present, is to be patient, is to have respect for your journey. Like even in yoga classes we say that is that appreciate what your body has brought, where your body has brought you here today, right? Appreciate what your body can do today in order to do better tomorrow, right? So
Yeah.
unfortunately that doesn't happen, right? Like, oh, my body is this, oh, my hair is this, oh, my work is this, oh, my paycheck is this. Like, you are not giving gratitude for anything in your life, and you expect everything to be a class. How
Right.
universe doesn't work that way, right?
Yes, correct. I
So
think
count your
somebody in the
blessings.
audience, yes, somebody in the audience also agreed to that and said mindset matters. The
Yeah,
mindset is everything.
absolutely.
Do you want
Yeah.
to quickly look at some of the questions that have come? Can we
Yeah, I mean, I
see?
can say quickly. So, what snacks do you have? I would say some good snacking things to have during the day could be some like unflavored Greek yogurt if you're a yogurt person, with some nuts. You can also just make a seed mixture with pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, peanuts, flaxseed, like as a mix. And you can have that with, let's say, if you like to have black tea, green tea, chai, coffee, whatever. And I would say avoid caffeine after 4 p.m. So after that, you can have any hot beverage. You can have lemon, like if it's hot, you can have some lemon jeera, that is again cooling, right? You can have infused water, which is basically you cut a cucumber or mint leaves, or you can cut an like a Malta orange, and you can just put it in your water bottle throughout the day, and the water will taste really nice. So you can do these things as well. For other snacks, you can have peanut butter with apple. You can have any nut butter with apple basic, or a fruit. You can have some hummus with some raw vegetables. I usually also like to like chop up tomatoes with a little bit of chaat masala and seeds on top of it. It tastes super yum. And sometimes I, of course, allow myself to have that occasional hide and seek biscuit or that rusk, which is totally fine. As long as, like I said, if you are doing everything in balance, then it should be fine. And wheat, rice or dairy. Honestly, if you've grown up eating wheat, then I don't see a big reason that you should be giving up wheat. However, most of the wheat now, if you don't, if you're not careful, it might be GMO, or it can be very highly processed. So you want to try and consume grains that are organic and are coming from verified sources. I would say that. And same thing goes with dairy. I would say have local milk, have a local farm milk, and avoid Tetra Pak milk, because it's not nutritious food. Um,
So we
yeah.
have something on flexibility, I guess.
Yeah, how do you increase flexibility, right? One myth I want to clarify for flexibility: people think that yoga is for flexible people, right? And that's not the case. In fact, the very fact that you're not very flexible means you should be doing yoga, right? So
Right.
please
Yes.
go towards your anything that you do for flexibility with that mindset that you are trying to get better at something, and not that you're not good at it, so you're not going to do it, right? Otherwise, I mean, if you're functioning like that, you will never try anything new. So that one, be open. And I think also flexibility, it's a very philosophical thing, but the more flexible, like flexibility is mental as well, it's not just physical. So
Wow. Okay.
what yoga helps you do is also, we say this, like, learn to stay in the pose and learn to breathe through that discomfort. Why do we say that? Because life is full of discomfort. Life is not fair. Like, half of the people, you may always feel like you may have the shorter end of the stick, or something may happen that others, sometimes you have to work harder than others. But that's the way life is, right? So what can you do about it? You can learn to enjoy and do it willingly rather than crib about it, right? Because it's your life. You cannot take on anyone else's life, so might as well live your life to the fullest, right? So I would say, do simple asanas. I would say downward dog, pigeon, ekpada rajkapotasan. Work on your spine, work on your hips, and work on your shoulders. And about something about flexibility is that it's not about the range, like it's not about touching your toes, but it's about how your body is aligned, right? So a lot of people are like trying to touch their toes and fully round their backs, but that's not helping them. Your spine is supposed to be slightly flatter, straighter, and you can bend your knees in order to touch the toes. Then you will feel it in the right places. So make sure that when you're going for flexibility asanas, you are feeling them in the places where they're supposed to be felt.
Sure. And
And
I
be
think
consistent.
absolutely. And I think for the benefit of the viewers, a lot more tips can be found on Urmi's Instagram handle as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, so people can do that. I think
Can I answer this? Can we increase mental
sure.
strength through yoga?
Yeah, the whole conversation is around mental strength, which yoga is helping us. Yeah,
Um, I would just like to say two things. One is what is the very definition of strength, right? Um, in the way we've been living in the last 50 years, strength has always been considered to be the fastest, the maximum, the most successful, the widest, the largest. Like everything has to be bigger, right? And everything has to be more, right? And I feel COVID has really taught us that having lots and lots of money or property is not going to give you happiness all the time, right? You could be cooped up in your house, whether the house is like a 5,000 square feet house or a 1,000 square feet house. If you are not happy here, then you are not happy anywhere. So, I mean, definitely COVID has established that. So I would say strength is the ability to accept your fears as well and be kind to yourself while accepting those fears, and at the same time using your strengths and using your whatever you have at that point to get better, right? It's not about who is the strongest in terms of physical strength or mental strength. It's not about who can push the hardest. It's about, can you be gentle while being um, uh, while really pushing your limits, right? Can you really be kind to your body while you go and pursue your professional goals? Why do you have to judge your body when you've not given it the adequate time and energy that it actually requires, right? If today you have worked 35 years in your profession, in your corporate job, and you've earned a certain designation, certain credibility, how can you expect that from your body, that kind of a progress, when you haven't even given, let's say, 30 minutes every day, right?
that's a fantastic point. Yes.
So I feel like where your energy, where your attention goes, your energy flows, right? So start, just like I said, pay attention to what you're eating. And the moment you're aware of what you're eating, you'll be like, am I benefiting from this? Is my body benefiting from this? Right? So even when you do yoga as an asana, majority of the people cannot hold the pose for more than 5 breaths, right? So that is your mental strength. Can I stay in that position for just maybe 2 more breaths? Can I stay in that position? And not, when I say that position, I don't mean to the best, to the perfect pose. I just mean in the best pose that you can do. Can you hold that? Then you can think of getting better at it, right? Like if you didn't hold a steady job, would you ever think about progressing in that job? No. Then why would you do that for an asana? So,
Absolutely. Yeah. Cool. Thank you so much. Do you want to take any further questions? I think we've handled most of them.
Yeah, I think I'm also good. Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah,
I just want to say, someone is asking, please share arm fat reduction exercise. This is the very example of us not being kind to our bodies, right? We want catalog bodies. I want this ass, I want this arm, I want this shoulder, I want this hair, I want this cheekbone. Like, what are you doing? This is not a shopping mall. This is your own body, right? Are you taking care of your body first, that you're demanding so many aesthetics of it, right? So, and I mean, would you talk to your best friend like that, oh, how much bank balance do you have? What car do you drive? What is your waist size? Do you ask your friends all these things? Then why are you judging your own body with that? Like, that's just ridiculous.
Completely agree. I think what you've really harped upon in this session is to take a very holistic approach and mind and body are not isolated. I think that's my key takeaway from this session.
And
It was
also, I would
wonderful.
just like to say that mind and body are not isolated from our other lives as well, right? I mean, we have a professional lives, family lives, social lives, career lives, financial lives. Everything is connected. Today, if you don't have money in your bank balance, would you be calm? Would you be able to meditate? No, right? But it is about finding that harmony where what can you do? If you are really calm, then you can think of 10 solutions about how you can make money, right? But if you're
Sure.
just constantly stressing about not having money, you will never have money. That's how universe works. Where your attention goes, your energy will flow there.
Sure. Perfect. I think we've very insightful conversations. You broke it down into very simple examples. Thank you. It was lovely hosting you, Urmi, and
Thank you
we
so
do
much for
look,
having me.
yes, we look forward to having you more often on our page. Thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you so much.